Hi, welcome to my plant journey. My name is Deanna and I share with you my love for houseplants. My heart beats fast for one genus of plants especially. It's Hoyas. I've grown my collection to over 24 different varieties, so I want to share with you guys how I've been taking care of them. What things I've encountered, some challenges, and things that I've done to overcome them. So if you want to learn more about how to take care of Hoyas and hopefully have them bloom those beautiful delicate flowers, keep on watching. Okay, so let's talk about Hoyas. One of the first things that I want to go ahead and talk about is that these genus of plants are tropical plants. So that's an easy way to remember what type of care they like. Tropical plants usually are found in Asia and overall very hot and humid places. Australia also has some varieties, and there's over 500 different types of Hoyas. That to me was very impressive when I just started learning about Hoyas, is that they can look so different from each other and still be Hoyas. What they all share in common is that they all have thick, waxy leaves. And as you can see here, my Hoya linearis, it has very long, thin leaves. Well, long leaves, but they're still waxy. And then here my Hoya Chelsea right there that's on the floor. Just for this video, it has rounded leaves. We have this Hoya Hindu rope that has curly leaves, and I love this one. We have some that have the hearts, and what's something interesting and common about them is they all start growing like long vines, because in nature these would be crawling and climbing up trees. So that kind of helps you have an idea how these plants grow. That's why a lot of us inside our house, we have them either in just some like hanging pots so they can kind of trail down, or sometimes we put trellises on them so they can kind of grab on. If we had a tree to put inside our house, it would be wonderful. That would be ideally what a Hoya would love, to help it climb and grow its biggest life. So in the tropical jungles, it usually is very humid. Although most of our homes are not as humid as the jungle, I'm very happy that they can do well in our homes, even though they're not as humid as the jungle. I live in North Carolina in the eastern area. We do have higher humidity, so I normally do not run a humidifier. This past whole year, I never turned on my humidifier, and my Hoyas have done well. Now, when I want them to do extra good, I do put them in my IKEA greenhouse, because there is higher humidity in my IKEA greenhouse. So I do notice that they grow faster there. Like this one here, my Hoya rotundifolia grew these big long tendrils while it was in there. So that's great. But I know most of them, I end up taking them out of there, and they're doing well everywhere else in my house. Yes, in winter, when my humidity is lower in my house, it might not be growing much, but there's still growth. So good news, it seems like they can still grow in our homes, even though they're not in a jungle. Higher humidity is better, but they're still gonna do pretty much well if in normal house humidity. For the most part. I'm not saying you live in somewhere that's really cold and your humidity is super low. I'm not sure how it would do. You guys can tell me if you guys live in an area with very low humidity, how your Hoyas are doing, and we can all learn from each other in the comments. Now, one of the first things I learned about Hoyas is they do like to be root bound. So I never have potted them in very big pots. Unless it's a very big Hoya. Some I bought already big, and then it came in a bigger pot and I left them there. But I'm always very careful with that. From the most part, it seems like they like to be a little bit root bound, and I was able to visit a botanical garden and see how they would grow in the jungle. And I was able to see how Hoyas can just attach to a tree and just have a little bit of bark, and with the constant humidity that it gets, it's really happy and thriving. So that taught me a big lesson that no, they're never living on the floor in the ground with a lot of soil for the most part. Some were like Asasa the Curtisia had been planted on the soil on the ground, but it started climbing, and those little roots were just all over the rocks, and they were happy and they were getting the nutrients it needs from the air, the environment. So that is definitely a lesson. We do want the soil to be very chunky and very airy. So definitely use a lot of orchid bark. I buy one that has a little mixture that has some perlite, it has some volcano, I think, little chips in there. If I can find that bag, I use that one. But basically orchid bark, I use a lot of perlite, and I mix it to whatever soil mix that I'm using at that time. I would say I probably would try to do maybe 40% soil and the rest in orchid bark or perlite to keep it very chunky and airy. Some of them here, I have them propagating in perlite. This one, I actually bought it in perlite, and that's why it's in perlite. This is my Hoya fungii. And some here, like this one's in sphagnum moss. When it was gifted to me by Marloca, thank you very much. I had it in, she sent it to me in sphagnum moss, but it's grown, so I put it in a bigger pot with even more sphagnum moss. But I know this baby is ready to be put in soil, but I just haven't because it's been doing fine. So I've left it here in sphagnum moss mixed with perlite. What's important is that it's very airy. So that's very interesting how Hoyas can live in different types of mixtures, but it just has to be airy. I was gonna talk a little bit about watering, right? Okay, so I water when the soil is dry. And ways I check that is by using my water meter here that I've talked to you guys about. Basically come around, pop it in there. That one needs water, doesn't it? And that's a way, okay, and I know it needs water. So what I would do is I would put something to kind of catch the water and set it up on there and water the plant, let the water drain through, and maybe let it sit in the water for a couple of an hour or two. And if it didn't soak up the excess water, then I go ahead and dump the water. Another way I know it needs water is I look at the leaves. This one, I just watered it right before the video, and I was like, oops, I had forgotten about it. And look, the leaves are very wrinkly. And this way you can see how it's wrinkled, and that's because it is way past when it needed water. So it's really dehydrated. So this is not what I recommend. This one was in a little accident. You do not want to do this because you can let a plant dry out so much that Hoyas have very thin roots. So they can quickly disintegrate and then you lose the roots. And no, you don't want that either, because later it might have trouble getting the water for very minimal roots. So I'm gonna watch this one and hopefully it's gonna be okay. But you do not wanna let it, once it hits dry, you do not wanna let it stay dry for a long time. This one's probably, I don't know how long it's been since I watered it. I really don't know, a week and a half to 2 weeks, but it's a small pot. Small pots always, you have to be more constantly taking care of them because they dry out so much quicker than bigger pots. So we learn, right? Another way I check my Hoyas to see if they need water is to just kind of sometimes come and kind of do this little pushing of the leaves. And if I feel they're firm, they usually are fine, don't need water. Sometimes you can start knowing your plants and feeling when they're too thinner than normal, then you know it needs water. I was just over here at my Hoya carrier, and I've had this one outside, and I was noticing that, where was it? I touched one leaf. Which one was it? These are all feel thick and nice. So this one's been fine with watering. Oh, okay, it was my variegated Hoya carrier, which is right over here. Variegated Hoya carrier. Oh, these feel pretty good. I don't know, I have so many Hoyas out here that if you were to see them kind of thinner, definitely it needs water too. Look at my soil mixture. You see, it's very nice and chunky and airy, and that's gonna help you so you don't overwater them either. Again, since there are thin roots, if it has a very dense soil, it's gonna stay wet for a longer time, and thin roots have a higher chance of having root rot. So Again, the soil mixture that you use is very important. I will tell you this though, all the Hoyas that I have bought from Costa Farms, I've actually, like this one, it actually is still in the pot I bought it from. Okay, and I know they usually use a soil that's a little more dense than what normally I would use. But if a Hoya is happy, I wouldn't mess with it. And so far, all the Hoyas that I've bought from Costa Farms, that I get them in big box stores, I try not to mess with the roots of a Hoya if I don't have to, because they're thin roots and they can break easily, and they're sensitive. So I've left them and they've been growing well. So this one I've had for maybe 8 months and it's been growing. So, oh my, there's a spider. I got it from the outside. Yikes. No wonder I saw some spider webs in here. So that's also, I wanted to include that in case you have one from Costa Farms. I just do not water until it's completely dry. What else? I'm sorry, I had some notes here so I can make sure I don't miss anything. Propagation. I have found Hoyas propagate very well in water. This is a Hoya Hindu rope, and I just put it in water. That's it, nothing else. And roots have grown. I need to change this water out, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you. I have found this is a very easy way. I love this way because you can quickly see how the roots are doing. I also propagated in sphagnum moss. Here is a little way I can show you how I've been propagating with sphagnum moss. I used a big Ziploc bag. I wet the sphagnum. I did a layer on the bottom. Then I started cutting my Hoya. This is my Hoya Crinkle 8. I started cutting it underneath each node. And let's show you here. So these are roots. Roots. Are they? Hold on. I don't want to pull. This sphagnum moss is so confusing sometimes to see which ones are roots, and that's why I like water the best. That I'm not going to pull out anymore. It's holding on to that. But basically, you just have to cut underneath a node. Now, what is a node? Node usually is like a little nub feeling looking spot of a plant, like right there. This is where the leaves are growing out of. That's a node. So I cut right underneath the node, and then I placed it here, and it started giving me leaves. Now, sometimes what I've done too, for example, this is a Hoya Hindu rope that's curly. It's basically like, I cut it off, a piece off of it, and sometimes you have to remove some leaves because you don't want the leaf to be underneath the water. So I removed some leaves and I popped it in there. Now that I remember, the Hoyas can grow roots almost from the whole part. I've had some other ones that just start growing the roots even a little bit higher up. So basically you need a little part of the stem in there, and it seems to root pretty well. So they're very easy to water, to propagate. Here I have some more of the Hoya Crinkle 8. Hoya Crinkle 8 reminds me a lot of the Hoya Chelsea, but just a little bit different. And yeah, there's some roots here. Those are roots right there. You could get it, carefully pull out the sphagnum, but yeah, they propagate very well. I had this in my greenhouse. Just if you want to propagate, a little higher humidity helps, so that's why these little baggies help. You just don't want you don't want to close it, because then it gets it just stays wet and damp, and then it just starts causing the leaves to rot. So you gotta be careful with that. I keep it open. I try for this not to touch the leaves too much. So that's it. Pretty easy to propagate and share with friends. Maybe sell some little cuttings so you can make some money back from what you've spent. Now, pests. Yes, these do attract pests. For me, in my experience, mealybugs is what I've encountered the most, is mealybugs. My Hoya Crimson Princesses, I've had a lot of mealybugs. Some of my Hindu roots are starting to get some, and I dreaded that because it's so hard to go through the little crinkles and clean them off. My Hoya area started getting a little bit too. I'm going to insert a little video where I'm going to show you how I take care when they have mealybugs. Look at this beautiful Hoya linearis. As beautiful as she is. Yeah, I'm fighting with the Mealybugs. I wanted to show you what a Mealybug looks like. You see that little white little spot there? It usually is fussy, it's round. I have some Q-tips here with alcohol. Sorry, that's just rust from the metal cap. But they're wet with alcohol. So I just literally come, touch it, and it kind of disappears. Sorry, I didn't even record when I was doing it. Okay, let's find another Mealybug. I know we'll find another one. Let's go in here. Usually at the base, we can see where they're hiding. Oh, right here. You see that stickiness here, fussiness? Ooh, I think it's Mealybug and Mealybug poop. So I just touch it with this, and it kind of just disappears, changes color to like a brown when it's dead from the alcohol. So I just go around right there where I find, I wipe. And it can be a tedious job. I recommend putting a movie in the background, some music, so you won't get as frustrated from seeing these. Okay, this is a big chunky one. Oh my, that's a Mealybug. Okay, that's a Mealybug. Check your plants. You might not know it's there because it usually does not make. What I will say about Mealybugs, I've never had the plant like completely turn yellow and die off. But I know if you don't take care of it, they get out of control. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue checking it. Overall, it's pretty good. Some of the little white spots are roots. So they're not all Mealybugs when you see white. This is an incredible plant. Incredible, lush, gorgeous plant. So yes, I'm not going to give up on it. So now I'm going to spray some neem oil mixture with Dr. Bonner's soap. And then I'm going to take it outside. And I'm going to take it outside because I'm going to let nature and all the other insects that are like to eat Mealybugs work. Because I've had a great experience where I did that for another Hoya where I had so many Mealybugs, and I was tired of cleaning it and I could never win the battle. They would always multiply before I had time to clean it again. And I left it outside now for maybe like a month, and I went to check on it, and I don't really see any Mealybugs anymore. So I feel some kind of predatory insects went ahead and took care of it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take it outside in my shaded porch, which my shaded porch is right over here. Some of you guys have seen the videos. So I'm gonna put it, I have several plants hanging there, so I'm gonna put it somewhere over there where it's still shade. So another thing why we love Hoyas, a lot of us, is because of their amazing, delicate flower. If you've never seen one, you're in for a treat when you get to see a Hoyas flower. It's just something special. It's waxy. It's like a little star inside of another little star. And I'm actually gonna, if I find little videos where I've recorded some of my Hoyas flower, I can insert it, but I can insert a video up here where I talk all about how I make one of my Hoyas flower, which is my Hoya Crimson Queen, has been a queen of flowers. But yes, beautiful flowers, and they usually smell very, very nice. I have here a Hoya that's flowering now that I think about it. This is my Hoya Bertinii or DS70. This is about to open up and become little flowers. This is right before they open up. This one does not have the showiest flower, but this one has been so good at flowering. And now here's a little demonstration on how to have your Hoyas flower. This one has been by a window, and according to the type of the season, sometimes it gets more direct sun than the other times. Right now in summer, it might get an hour of afternoon sun directly, but and I know in the winter it gets a little bit more, and it's constantly giving me flowers. Now I have another Hoya DS70 right over there, and that one I bought maybe a year later, and although it has the same conditions, it has not flowered for me yet. So, is it about to flower? Do you see something there? Oh, that's awesome. See, it took it a good year in my care that now it's gonna flower. So you have to be patient. But overall, bright light is really good, and in my experience, the ones that even get direct sunlight for an hour or two, of course you don't want to do too much sun, like 6 hours. If you see any leaves burning, be careful. A little bit of sun stressing is what happens to a lot of Hoyas, and that means they just start turning a little bit reddish, and that's completely fine. And I think we see it right over here. Oh yes, we see it right here. Look, this, you see how it turned purple here? Oh, that's beautiful. Turned purple. This one burned a little bit. See? That burnt a little bit. I don't stress too much about it. I overall, if I start to see majority burning, then I would be concerned. But I liked how they can change colors. A lot of Hoyas a little bit with the stressing of the sun, and oh, it's doing good. It helps it flower. Some Hoyas have flowered for me in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet with the artificial light in there. And I've had small Hoyas flower like this one. This one, I said it was a Hoya fungii, but that's what I was sold to me as. But after it flowered, which this is after it flowers, this is what stays. And again, it was in my IKEA greenhouse, and it's like small, just started the root cutting that somebody sold me. Oh, okay, did I leave? And it flowered. So Hoya's a little bit hard to understand. Some wait for a long time into they're very mature. I mean, years into their life, I think around 10 years sometimes to flower. Others, small cutting and it flowered. I don't know if because it came from a mature mom or what happened here, but they can surprise you. Don't lose hope. Just give it more light. I would be my recommendation if they're not flowering for you. And yes, we need to fertilize your plants. I do fertilize my Hoyas. I have used a lot of different things, and I think overall it's just important to find something that you like to feed it with that's safe for your plants. What I'm currently using is liquid dirt, and I'm also using Oscamat. And I've added it to some of my plants. You can see it here. Oscamat is more like little slow release little balls or granules. They release fertilizer, and what I liked about Oscamat is that it says that it won't burn your plants, and that's always what I'm looking for. I just don't want to ever burn a plant. And I also add a little bit of liquid dirt, very diluted liquid dirt, to my watering very much often, most of the times in my spring and summer. And so far I've had no damage from doing that. So when I feel like I'm just doing liquid dirt and I don't see a lot of growth, I've started doing a little bit of Oscamat granules to the soil. That's what I've been doing so far, no damage. So there you go. That's how I've been taking care of my Hoyas. And I've loved Hoyas. That is one of the genus of plants that I think I'm always going to have in my life. If I move anywhere, I'm still going to try to get some Hoyas. I like that they're, some people don't like them because they're slower growers. Maybe they don't grow big, massive leaves like some other plants. But this is easier because it's just smaller space. And they're just such a wide variety. And I like them because of the flower. I like because they're easy to take care of. If I miss a watering, they're forgiving. They're not gonna shrivel up and die like begonias have done that for me. Unfortunately, they're a little more sensitive and you cannot miss a watering. And I have a lot of plants, so I need plants that are gonna be okay with me missing a watering. So I think these are all the reasons that have made me fall in love with Hoyas and the big variety, and who cannot get over some curly leaves. I mean, that is mind-blowing. I love those type of plants, and I keep adding more to my collection. So tell me tips and tricks that you have learned about taking care of Hoyas, and we can keep furthering our knowledge so we can learn together and have happier plants. And if we have happier plants, then we're gonna be happier, because none of us like to lose any of our plants. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you're curious to see one by one all of my different Hoya varieties, I'm gonna do another video where I'm gonna show my whole Hoya collection. If you're interested, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and hit the notification button so you won't miss that next video. Thank you, and I hope you found this informative. Bye.